I think basically since the start of the Samuel Who YouTube channel, I've made it very clear that the 12th Doctor is my favourite Doctor. I've spoken about him numerous times in a positive and negative light and gone over his entire era in some way, shape or form. And recently my first video covering the 12th Doctor and why I think he went from being one of the most hated Doctors to one of the most loved Doctors recently hit 100,000 views, and in celebration of that and in celebration of who I think is the best Doctor, I wanted to do a brief retrospective where I go over some of my personal favourite episodes and highlights of his era, and some of the episodes that I think are the lower end of his era, and some that I genuinely don't like. But at the end of the day, these are just my opinions. If you don't agree with them, feel free to comment down below. Even if you do agree with them, comment down below and, subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any more Doctor Who content, but don't shoot me for my opinions. And without further ado, let's dive straight into today's video. I want to start with the positives of this era, the best episodes or the episodes that I personally enjoy the most. These don't have to be the most fantastical, best episodes that the show has ever produced. These are some of the best episodes I think of his era, some of the episodes that I personally enjoyed the most, even if they aren't the best, and of course just some of the best episodes of Doctor Who. Of course I could name an episode like Listen, but as much as I like Listen, I think it's a heavily overrated Capaldi episode, and I personally prefer Kill the Moon. But it isn't just Kill the Moon. I personally think the run of episodes of The Caretaker, Kill the Moon, Mummy on the Orient Express, and Flatline are some of the best in Doctor Who. Look, I understand that The Caretaker isn't everybody's cup of tea, but I do like the Doctor trying to fit into the school environment. I love how enjoyable the 12th Doctor is here, how energetic he is. I think it's just an easy to watch episode, and I think the dynamic between 12 and Danny Pink is really good here. Because look, we can talk about the really big episodes that really define an era, like Listen. But I personally think it's these stories that really do build up an era, give it character, and this is the episode that kind of really flushes out the 12th Doctor as an actual being, an actual character, and I love it. I love the characterization of the Doctor here, and it really works for me as just a pretty enjoyable and easy watch. Kill the Moon's another one that I don't think people particularly like. I've seen the complaints, I've read the complaints, I agree with some of the complaints, but ultimately I still like it. I like how dark the Doctor is here, how out of character he is almost, how he leaves the companion there to make the decision and come back and just expects a conclusion, a result. And I think it's a very interesting dynamic, and I love the position it puts the Doctor and Clara in. It's overall a very intense episode, and what you're going to notice with a lot of these episodes, especially for Series A, is a lot of them are just incredibly rewatchable and enjoyable episodes, and you do truly get something out of them if it's the drama, the intensity of them, or if they're just easy to watch. I think these episodes really build Capaldi's era. Mummy on the Orient Express, what can I say that people haven't already said about it? Capaldi is at his top tier, the concept is just amazing, and how they repair the bridge between 12 and Clara is satisfying, and I think it works incredibly well. And that's kind of the same boat I'm in with Flatline. Flatline is an impeccable episode. The speech from Capaldi about the monsters is just incredible. I love this episode. I love the string of episodes. I think Series 8 is incredibly underrated. I do think it is some top tier stuff. I think it's better than Series 9, of course, and I think it could possibly be better than Series 10, but that is a pretty controversial opinion that we won't dive into in today's video. And there's a personal favourite that I loved when it came out, and I still love, is the Davros two-parter. I love the character moments between 12 and Davros. The 12th Doctor was meant to go up against Davros. He was meant to have these conversations with Davros. They are incredible together. I can't underestimate and over exaggerate or any of that crap how lovely the interactions are here, what they talk about, how they come across. And I love the scene where Davros ends up stealing the 12th Doctor's regeneration energy. I think that's an amazing scene, and how he gloats, how he's tricked the Doctor. And as well, the ramifications that has now, and how they can actually use that to solve the big problem with Davros is incredibly interesting. I love these two episodes. I love what they do with the Davros and the Doctor relationship, and especially how the 12th Doctor interacts with Davros. We haven't had this type of interaction, I personally think, since the 4th Doctor with Davros, and I think it's very interesting. I love it. Of course, genuine critiques with these episodes, like the 12th Doctor ripping Davros out of his chair and the ethics behind that, and feel free to talk about that down below in the comments, because that's a genuine critique to have. But I just love their interactions that the 12th Doctor and Davros have. The way Peter Capaldi plays it off is just amazing, and Julian Bleach is just incredible as Davros, as always. I think it's a genuine shame that we only ever saw these two interact in these two episodes. I genuinely wouldn't have minded another Davros episode in Series 9. I don't want them to overuse Davros, but the 12th Doctor and Davros go together so well. Now back to basics. The Zygon two-parter, amazing. What else can you say about these two episodes that haven't already been said. The speech is impeccable. It's the speech that people link when they think of Doctor Who. It has transcended Doctor Who. People outside of Doctor Who know this speech, and that is a pretty rare occurrence, especially for the show post David Tennant, post the 11th Doctor. This is something that even non-Doctor Who fans know about. It's an amazing speech. It's an amazing episode. I love the use of the Zygons here after the 50th anniversary, and I do love how a lot of Series 9 is picking up of the consequences of the 50th anniversary and things that Stephen Moffat couldn't do in Series 8 because he was setting up the 12th Doctor. I think they work really well here. Heaven Sent and Hellbent. I love Heaven Sent as much as everyone else does. I think it's an amazing episode. Shepherd's Boy is one of my favourite Doctor Who songs and one of my favourite melodies ever. And Hellbent. I love this episode. Hellbent gets such a bad rap. I think it's incredibly overhated. I love that the 12th Doctor goes too far. I love that as a consequence he has to lose his memories of Clara. I think it's done amazing. These two episodes are always a must on my rewatch. Some episodes, as you will see when I get into the negatives of this era very briefly, I skip. These two, no. These two are always a classic, always a rewatch, and I hope that people start looking back at Hellbent a bit more positively, because I do think it's got its positives. I agree with some of the criticisms, but I do love the 12th Doctor just going too far. I think the 12th Doctor being so angry and going too far, and the threats he makes in these episodes are just amazing. Peter Capaldi really pulls it off. Now, an episode of this era I very much do not like is The Return of Dr. Mysterio, but I'm going to quickly mention this right now because I've already made an entire video on it, but I want to mention it now because there's a point of this episode that I adore, and it's the ending. Not because the episode is also ending, but there is just an amazing dialogue about River Song and the 12th Doctor that I just absolutely adore, and every rewatch, I will always skip this episode, but I will always play this specific scene. While unfortunately the BBC copyrighted this segment to shit and the entire video to shit and blocked it worldwide. Sorry for the delay of the video, it was meant to be out 2 days ago, but the BBC blocked it several times because of the clips shown, even though they are publicly available on YouTube. They are in everybody's YouTube videos. I've used all these clips previously in my videos and even shown them in full without me talking over them. See, fair use doesn't exist to the BBC. Sorry. The emotion, and then the follow-up with Nardole, a character that I'm pretty iffy on, and his explanation about River Song and how happy the 12th Doctor was with her on Beryllium. I love this scene. I think it's such a top-tier Capaldi scene and a top-tier Doctor Who scene. You just really don't get this with the show anymore, these heartfelt, emotional moments. I love the emotional beats here. It's such a shame it's in such a shit episode, but I've got to mention it. And then we get to the 3 final episodes of Capaldi's era. These episodes are amazing. I've made a whole video on how these 3 episodes work as a fantastical end to Doctor Who, if you wanted to look at it that way. Of course, I don't think Doctor Who should ever really end. I think it could always go on, but I think this works as a perfect ending. I love the battle where he's blowing up the Cybermen and his speech is just fantastic. I love all of it. The Shepherd's Boy playing here. I love his regeneration scene and the episode, how he's in denial. I love it all. I love these episodes. I'm not going to speak up again about these too much because I've already made a whole video talking about them because I love them so much. But this is the thing with Capaldi's era, I do love it so much. There are so many genuine character moments. The Doctor here is genuinely such a genuine Doctor. You feel an emotional connection to this Doctor. How down to earth he is, I think he's an amazing Doctor. I think with the 12th Doctor, he plays off and interacts really well with basically any character or any villain you put him alongside. John Simm's version of the Master, he interacts with him amazingly. Same with Michelle Gomez's Missy. Davros is incredible. All those interactions are fantastic. Even with characters like the Cybermen, and more importantly the Mondasian Cybermen, work amazingly. Characters like River Song, who you know is usually exclusively seen with the 11th Doctor, is amazing alongside the 12th Doctor, and I'm kind of sad we never got more of that up until the Husbands of River Song, but of course I know exactly why, but it's just a shame because they work so well with each other. I think how he interacts with Clara and Bill and Nardo and his companions are amazing. I ultimately just adore this era. I adore Peter Capaldi. I think that's ultimately the message of this video. I don't want to rain on the negatives too long because of course there are negatives. I don't particularly like the characterization of Nardo. I despise his sonic sunglasses. I think episodes like Sleep No More are bad. I do not like it. I do not like The Return of Dr. Mysterio. Those are 2 episodes that are on every single rewatch I will always skip. Even fucking shit episodes like The Return of Dr. Mysterio that I hate and I will always skip on rewatch have their moments. All of these episodes have their moments. Maybe Bar Sleep No More. I really don't like that episode. But Capaldi really shines the Doctor. And I'm so glad he said about never returning, because I never want him to return for a special or anything like that. I genuinely think it would tarnish his Doctor. It would tarnish his ending. And I think he knows that. And I love how he's very adamant about not returning. And I'm very glad, because I think his era is fine how it is. I think his Doctor is fine how it is, and we don't need any more from him in terms of actual episodes. Expanded media, of course, big finish, but when it comes to the actual show, I just love his era. I think it's very clear that this is not a proper retrospect. This is just an excuse for me to waffle on about 10 minutes for how much I love the 12th Doctor and Capaldi, how much I love his acting, how much I love this era, and I hope you do too. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on this era and my favourite episodes and my least favourite episodes that I very, very briefly mentioned, because I want this to be a positive video. There's so much negativity around the Doctor Who community, around Doctor Who fandom, around just the show at the moment, that I just really wanted to come on here and waffle about my favourite era. My favourite episodes of this era, the interactions he has, my favourite moments, just an excuse to talk positively about Doctor Who for once, as at the moment it's incredibly negative. But feel free to leave your opinions, positive or negative, down below, and whilst you're down there, please consider leaving a like, subscribing, hit the notification bell so you don't miss any future Doctor Who uploads. But I've been your host Samuel, I've been on this Samuel Who channel, and I will catch you in the next video on this channel or any of the other channels you may follow me on.